Hey, 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 everybody. It is a sunny Thursday afternoon, and you know what that means? That is right. It is the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. It is episode number 94. I am your trusted realtor, Allister Carrington, and as always, we have alongside us our trusted mortgage broker, our mortgage guru, Geoff Lee. Geoff, buddy, how you doing on this beautiful Thursday afternoon?
Well, Alistair, you should know by now when it's beautiful outside. I just pretend it's raining and I close all my windows, close all my blinds, because you know what? I don't like being in the glass prison, so
Right.
I just pretend it's ugly outside. So
Because you're stuck inside like me,
exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So what do you got going on for your week? How's the week going for you?
Oh man. So it's funny that you asked that because it was kind of going to be my lead up in the did you know. I've been super busy. Like I've had a 1 day off in the past 17 days. Like it
Spring
is.
market?
Yeah, it's busy. I guess I'll get into it later on in the did you know, but yeah, it's been a busy spring market, busy spring market.
Yeah, which is awesome. Which
Yeah,
is
it's
awesome.
good. It's really good. How about you,
Uh,
my friend?
I'm
How
I'm
about you?
turning off my distractions.
Oh,
I'm turning off my distractions. Yeah, you know what? We've been quite busy. Like I've said, there's over 1 million mortgage renewals that are happening here Canada wide in 2026. So we're busy with those phone calls and re-educating people on the loyalty tax. Remember the pod that we did on the loyalty tax?
yeah,
And for those who have forgotten, is the loyalty tax is when mortgages are coming up for renewal. Statistically speaking, 7 out of 10 people will just simply renew with their existing lender for whatever reason. And statistically speaking, they may pay a full percentage higher than if they were to shop it around. So we're really busy with those phone calls. People are slowly starting to learn about the loyalty tax and slowly starting to learn that, you know what? I do have other options and the advantages of working with a mortgage broker. So we're busy with that. We're busy with the spring market. We're busy with a little bit of everything. So like you, we're being quite active.
that's amazing, man. That's amazing. Well, let's get to her though, man. Let's get into it and let's get started with podcast hottest segment, and that is.
Did you know?
That's right, baby. Did you know? So, Geoff, as I was saying, right? I was like, okay, I what's the Did You Know segment going to be? I've been busy. I've been like trying to find time to prepare and all that sort of stuff. So every time I sat down and started reading articles, every article that I would get about stuff that's going on in British Columbia is home sales are slow.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around and I'm like, I have not been able to sit down. How
Yeah.
are home sales slow? We're in the spring market. We just got named the weakest housing market in Canada
Wow.
right now. So to me, I didn't want to I didn't want to focus on stuff that I really felt the mainstream media is continuing to propagate, right? Is continuing to put out there that things are slow, because I know we've always said too that the work that we put into things really delivers your output, is delivers what you get out of it. So I know you both of us put a lot of work into our business, and that's one of the reasons why we remain busy. But that shouldn't mean that everybody should not be busy, right? It means that there are people actively doing business because people right now understand that this is a great time to buy. So I came across something else, Geoff, for the Did You Know, because this was super interesting. So, did you know that the next big shift in pricing across Canada might not come from inflation? It might come from artificial intelligence, Geoff.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah. So here's what I mean. So we've all experienced dynamic pricing before. And if people don't understand what dynamic pricing is, when you check a flight and it's one price and then you come back like 3 hours later and
Yeah.
it's another price of higher or lower,
Yeah.
right? So it's the same thing as ride sharing during peak hours. Basically what they're doing is they're selling during hours. They're pricing based on the hours that it's busiest, right? So that's dynamic pricing. So that's not new. What's coming next is different. It's called algorithmic. That's easier said than done. Algorithmic. It's not even easy to say.
That's four syllables.
Algorithmic pricing, right?
That's a four-syllable word. So
Right.
that's high tech.
Algorithmic pricing. So instead of adjusting prices based on demand alone, it's going to be based on you, your behavior, your patterns, even how long your mouse hovers over something online.
Hmm.
So imagine this. So it'll look really like this. So two people looking at the same exact product at the same exact time could see two completely different prices.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so let that sink in for a second. It's just not theory anymore either. In the US, hundreds of companies right now are already working with pricing algorithms. And there was even a case where online grocery prices varied by up to 23% on the user.
Hmm.
So now the big thing is there's early signs of this creeping into Canada, and of course now we're seeing pushback. Manitoba is already moving to ban it altogether, and there's already been attempts federally to shut it down, though, even though nothing is passed. So I
Well,
wanted to get what's that?
it also shows you the importance of how many people actually are relying on AI.
Yeah,
How many people now may be getting taken advantage of what they're that they're just basically getting used to relying on, right?
sure.
And a lot of times maybe not even questioning it, but then it comes back to the importance of humans,
Yeah,
right? And a human interaction and a human element in it. And I just actually was off of a coaching seminar today, and this is going a little bit off track, but AI, that's the new shiny thing is AI,
sure.
right?
Hmm.
And kind of what I've been hearing is that, hey, yes, if you're not onto AI, you're going to be left behind. But if you also rely on AI, you're also going to be left behind, just in a different way, right? And
Yes.
this is kind of where you're going. And behind every great AI has to be a great human
Yeah.
because that's how it works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And again, AI is great for the beginning, may be great for the end, but you still need that human element in the middle to bring it
Yeah.
all together,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. It's to me it's this now brings a huge question because you've got two very different sides, right? So now you've got companies that are saying this, they're arguing that this is just smarter pricing, right? It's efficient, it's data driven, it's competitive. But now you have us as the consumers asking a very fair question, right? Is it still fair market value, or now is it just being priced because of who I am, right? Because if I tend to like, let's say, chicken thighs more than somebody else, well, chicken thighs will now become more expensive for me because my buying pattern is higher than somebody that doesn't like them because they know they won't really ever buy them.
yeah, or someone that is buying the chicken thighs and everybody's buying it, so therefore,
Sure.
no, it like does that pricing also go up as and gets determined as the purchasing goes up as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
So
I don't
to
know.
your point in those, and so thank you for chiming in with that other part because it kind of rolls this all around is we as humans, like you said, gravitate to the new shiny thing, and then what we start doing, especially with AI, because it makes our lives so much easier in
Yeah.
a lot of the things that we do. Well,
Yeah.
that will definitely will become a crutch for us, right? And so when you were talking about it hurting us in respects by it also leaving us behind because we rely on it too much. I was talking with a friend of mine and he's been using AI to help write a book, right? He's been writing a book for a while and he's using AI to help him with it. And he actually got to the point while going through the process that he had just had to write a normal email to somebody. He couldn't remember how to write an email. And
Yeah.
he's like, I have a master's degree. How can I forget to write an email? But it's because he'd been working with AI for so long on having AI do all of those things for him that he forgot how to do the simple task.
Yeah. Or he forgot how to he knew how to reply and write an
Sure.
email, but he it almost a lot of times that AI takes your identity. So when
Yeah.
you basically start to try to do it without it, it's just like, oh, this just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Right? And
Exactly.
and us as humans, as we know, we are, most of us will take the path of least resistance,
Yeah.
and most of us want it to be easy. So once
Yeah.
and that's why AI can be so dangerous, is
Yeah.
because it is so easy, right? And again, and this is going off another rabbit hole. If you take a look at dementia, if you take a look at Alzheimer's,
Alzheimer's.
right? And again, I'm not by all means, I'm just kind of speculating here, but that starts to happen when you stop using your brain,
Yeah.
right? And this is why older people like Wordle and crossword puzzles, and because it makes their brain work.
Yeah.
So what is AI going to do about, these future possible conditions where your brain actually stops working because you have somebody else doing it, right?
Yeah.
Or
No, that's exactly it.
isn't firing as it should. Because again, you take a look, and I could totally be wrong here. So anybody that's listening that has a way more medical background than I do, but amnesia, or sorry, dementia, Alzheimer's is all related from your brain shutting itself down because it becomes less and less and less active, right? And
Mhm.
again, this is why people do Wordle, do crosswords, to puzzles, is just to keep their brain moving, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why apps like Luminosity are so big because that's what they're doing. It's an exercise for your brain. It's
Yeah.
your biggest muscle.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I kind of wanted to bring around to was as we go through this stage of the world where we will become reliant on AI, and it's because it plays such a big part in our life. It's important that we understand it.
Yeah.
We need to understand the things that we rely on so that we don't become too reliant on them, that we can, to your point, keep our identity, right? Remember how to do things ourselves and not so that we're not taken advantage of. Because think about how companies will be able to take advantage through algorithmic pricing.
Yeah.
That when I heard that is crazy.
That is
Knowing
crazy.
that, something could be $23 for one person and $5 for another.
Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I'm not surprised because that's how it works,
Yeah.
right?
I
So,
always so and again, just not to quickly, but dynamic pricing, how I mentioned I remember talking about that with a colleague and wondering if dynamic pricing would ever become a thing in real estate. So I don't think they can ever do algorithmic, but dynamic would be really, I mean, we already do sort of a version of dynamic pricing because, homes vary from area to area, right? So it's all based on desire and want and all of that sort of stuff. And spring prices, you will have maybe a house that's priced a little bit higher in the spring versus where your pricing may sit at in the winter. But it would be really interesting if houses started to be priced dynamically. If a company was able to harness that type of engine in order to dynamic price homes. I think you'll always need realtors though,
yeah.
but it'd be an interesting thing.
Well, it would be interesting because again, for me, and I'm 55 years old, so I'm pretty much a senior now. So I'm sounding like, my grandparents. Is I can never see that happening because, how can you purchase like the biggest thing of your life without having a human interaction in there,
Me
right?
too. Yeah, I
But
believe the same.
I can guarantee you back in my parents' day, and 55 years later, they would say, well, how are you going to be able to speak into your computer and tell it to write you an email? Like they would just think you were insane. I still remember one of my business partners saying, I'm never ever going to have a cell phone. They're silly, right? I even remember myself saying at one point, I'm never going to buy bottled water. Like, why am I going to buy bottled water?
Right?
And it's and again, so I say that I can never see that happening, but you know what? Never say never.
Yeah, the world and technology, man, it's a crazy place that we live in. So here's a best line that we can give you is understand what you're using.
Yeah, and people that are growing up in this time or people that are in this era, like I was talking to my 22-year-old son about this, and he's like, Dad, like, do you realize the era that we're in now has been unlike any other period ever,
Mhm.
right? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, you have AI, you have online businesses, like you
Yeah,
have and again, the US and the Iran, like you got so much stuff that's happening in
yep,
really such a small period of time, and we're part of that, right?
yeah.
And I was like, wow, like, yeah. And you don't even realize it because you're in it.
It's true. Yeah, but it's true to get to this point. We are right now at a major point in history.
Yeah.
Yeah, a major point in history.
Should put do a time capsule right now,
Yeah, right? Exactly. Exactly. All
right?
right, man. Well, that's all I
Anyways.
got.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about your busy market.
All
And
right.
and uh and back in the day, in COVID days, there was a lot of people purchasing things that were subject free. They were just going in firm
Yep.
because they needed to. And this isn't necessarily something that people are doing now. But I was just working with one of our realtor partners, and there was a gentleman that was doing a pre-sale, and the offer came in, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's no subject to finance in here. Like, what's going on? It says, yeah, we're going in firm, and I'm like, well, tell me more because and this again will go to working with it with people that know what they're doing. And I'm like, well, tell me more because my personal opinion is, especially in this market where it is a buyer's market, why are you going in subject free? Like, why are you going in firm, and you have no protection to your buyer? And she says, well, Geoff, when you are purchasing a pre-sale, you have a 7-day rescission period. And I'm like, yeah, but don't you have to pay like a 0.25 or a certain percentage of the purchase price if you back out? He says, well, in this particular case, we're going in firm because with the 7-day rescission period on a new build, you can get out with no penalty, right? With no cost. And I'm like, you know what? As a strategy, that makes sense because it's kind of like putting in a 7-day conditional finance. But that offer, strategically speaking, is much stronger because you have no conditions outside of the rescission period that you can utilize with no penalty,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay, learned something new. Not a realtor, learned something new. But again, wanting to protect the client and asking the question as far as, okay, explain this to me. And also, what I've learned in that is being open and being humble enough to ask the question and not just presume that you know the answer, number
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Number two is like, okay, like tell me more why this is firm because you don't really need to do this. And then understanding the strategy behind it, right? And after you ask the questions, or after I asked the questions and understood the strategy and understood on still how that buyer is being protected, I was like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But here is what we need to talk about when people are going in subject free or when people are going in firm and what exactly, that means. And what that means too is if you go in and when you're talking the language firm, Alistair, when somebody's like, I want to go in subject free or just a firm offer, what does that mean?
It means that, so like you were saying earlier, you have subjects. So if you have subject to financing, you would say, we're going to have our financing done by April 24th, by tomorrow. And then the other person will say, I have my financing done. So I'm going in firm. There's no financing needed.
Yeah. Or
That's,
sometimes they say, I'm fine. Like they
yeah,
just
I have
assume
no
that we're
financing.
financing this,
Yeah.
right?
So a firm deal is all subjects have been removed or no subjects. You just have a no subject offer is what we call it.
Right. And again, what are some of those subjects? They could be subject to finance.
Oh, okay. So your normal ones. So what you'll normally have and what you should really always have is you'll have your subject to finance, your subject to title, your subject to PDS, your subject to home inspection, and your subject to fire insurance.
Right. Those are the
And then
standard.
those are the standards. And in
Yeah.
some cases, depending on where you are, you'll have subject to looking for an oil well and all that sort of stuff. But if you're
Right.
working with the right person, they'll know what
Right.
subjects you need.
So what we're saying is that with every purchase, there's typically subjects within that purchase. And just to clarify, PDS, just because we love the
Property
acronyms,
disclosure statement.
right? And what is a property disclosure statement?
So the property disclosure statement is everything that the seller knows has happened in the house. It's everything about the house that the seller knows. It's them answering yes or no or I don't know.
Right. So in a typical sales market, people who are putting offers in on properties, there's always going to be a condition in there or conditions in there.
Yeah.
What happens, and this was happening a lot back in the COVID days when there was multiple offers going on single properties, and we all wish that was the case today, but there would be many people that would say, hey, I'm going to go in condition free or subject free because it made that offer that much stronger and therefore made it a little bit more enticing for the seller to accept it.
Yeah.
But what we have to understand is that if you go in condition free or firm, this is a legal binding offer once it's accepted. And again, we see this a lot in competitive markets. We're not really seeing this a lot in today's markets outside if there's a strategy involved and it is a make sense strategy like the situation that we explained earlier. But what we have to understand is that it is a legal binding offer once it's accepted.
Yeah. And can I just chime in there just so people understand there's a lot of risk that comes with a subject free offer, right? So I want everybody to understand that subject free sounds good. Like let's just do it. Like let's not have any subject.
Yeah, I
There's
really
a lot
want
of
it. I really
what's that,
want
sorry?
it, Stir. I really want it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you want it, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, but client, but subject free is super risky. And so I just to chime in, when people say you can't do home inspections during the COVID and all that, or during crazy markets and stuff like that, you still can. I did, right? All you do is just have them have the home inspection at like 9 o'clock in the morning. You ask if we can have a home inspection 9 o'clock in the morning before we write on this property. Your clients are still paying for it, and you can go in subject free now without the home inspection, but you still had one done.
Right.
Takes away the risk.
Well, it takes away that one risk.
That
So,
one risk of the, yes, not the financing risk. That's another part. This is what Geoff talks about because that's another crazy one.
right. So again, when you are going to subject free, you are in a legal binding offer, but there's a lot of things that can go sideways on you. Like your financing may fall through, right? How many times, Alistair, as a realtor, are you bringing people around saying, "Yeah, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good." You go write the offer, and well, you know what? I'm not good, right?
So unfortunately, fortunately enough for me, sorry, I've never had that occasion because I always make sure that I understand my client's financial situation before writing any offers. But I do know that's happened to some colleagues of mine, and that's what I'm saying. It's tough. It's a tough go. You get your dreams all thought up on a house that you're going to get it, and then you find out no, you can't afford it.
Well, but now you've done a subject-free offer, is now you
Offer.
have to figure it out.
Now you have to figure, and that's the other problem. Yes, now you have to figure out how you're going to own it, and that's the big risk that I was going to that yeah that I was waiting for you to pull
And,
up
and
or
now
bring
and
up.
now what happens, Alistair, if you can't get the financing? You're in a
Yeah,
legal binding agreement,
you get sued.
right? So
Yes.
again, there also could be insurance problems here in
Mhm.
Abbotsford when we had the huge flood. And now if your property is on the floodplain, there was a period of time where no financing was able to get done because those houses and those properties that were on the floodplain couldn't get insurance,
Yep.
right? So again, if you go in subject free, sure, your financing might be great. Sure, your home inspection might be great and there's no issues there. But what happens now? You're buying in a floodplain. You can't
Yeah.
get insurance on the place. You're you can't complete,
Mhm.
right?
A lot of people in Lytton have that problem.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Hidden home issues. Again, how many times are home inspections done and all of a sudden you're finding cracks in foundations, you're finding copper wiring or asbestos, depending on the age of the home. But
Yep.
again, if you go in subject free and your home inspection or even your PDS kind of outlines that there's property details that aren't going to be attractive to the financing side of things, your financing could collapse because of the property details,
Yep.
right? But here's what you have to do is if you are planning on doing that. You have to make sure that you do a lot of preparation before you offer, right? And what that means is that you have to make sure 100% that you're going to get approved. And I'm not talking pre-approved. I'm talking about approved with a lender prior to writing an offer. And then how do you do that? Because Alistair, lenders are not going to approve anything unless there's a
Without
purchase agreement,
an active
right?
offer in place.
So this is where, when we talk about our power team, why your lending partner is so important. Because again, when people or how a pre-approval should be written is a pre-approval should be written as it's actually a live or an accepted offer. They are doing a full application. They are going through your credit with a fine-tooth comb. They're going through all the documents that you need to verify the information of your application. For example, income, down payment, and such. So when it is a live offer, there's going to be no problems with the borrower, but this is where we now go back onto the realtor. You also don't want it to fall apart because of the property details, right? And
Yep.
we've talked about this before, Alistair. Again, how many realtors do you know that actually do not read strata documents?
Listen, there's quite a few. There was realtors that literally will just that they say, I don't read them. If you want them read, take them to a lawyer. Otherwise, the risk is on you.
Right. So again, now you're going into a subject-free offer. Your
Yeah.
financing is fine. Your home inspection is fine, right? As far as the property details. Now your strata documents are telling that you have assessments or envelope issues or something that's structural.
Yep.
Again, all of a sudden your deal is now falling apart. Hey, but you went subject-free. You got to figure it out because now you're in a firm and binding offer. And if you can't complete, what's going to happen?
You're going to get sued again.
Right.
You're getting sued.
So again, do your due diligence, right? Make sure that you are getting pre-approved and you are getting pre-approved properly. And that's with an application, that's with a credit pull, that's with a document review.
Yeah.
You mentioned this earlier, Alistair. Do a pre-inspection before you
Yes.
rate, right?
Sorry,
Um,
it drives me nuts the amount of people that don't that are well, my clients they know too. I make them sign the mass amount of documents if they won't do it. But the amount it is crazy to me the amount of money that we spend on a home in British Columbia and not wanting to protect your investment by getting a look at it. A home
because they want to
inspection is
save
so
$600.
it is crazy, man. That is insanity to me. So
Yeah.
please, again, people, I cannot beg and plead with everybody out there enough. Make sure you are doing a home inspection. It can be done. It can be done in any market. You can get it done early. You can get it done late, right? I mean at late at night, right? You just make the arrangements to get it done and then write your offer.
And again, sidetracking this a little bit, even if you're buying a pre-sale or a brand new property, still get a home inspection done,
Yes,
right?
yes. Even if it's a new property, yes.
Yeah. And again, confirm your insurance early. If there is a risk as far as that you think that the property is not going to get insured, make sure that you can get that insurance early, right? Or explain the property to the insurance broker. Explain, show them where the property is. Have your realtor make sure that you're not going to have any issues with your insurance,
Right.
right?
And here's just a quick one that can mess it up and is poly B. If you didn't do a home inspection, then you don't understand what type of plumbing is running through the house. And then all of a sudden it's found out that it has poly B in it. And now you have an insurer that doesn't want to insure your home because it's got poly B in it. What are you going to do?
And again, remember, review your strata documents. We did a pod. The average strata homeowner is going to be paying $8,000 in special assessments,
Yep.
right? That's
Yep.
the average. So again, making sure that your documents are going, your strata documents are being reviewed by your realtor. And if your realtor is saying, no, that's not part of my job description, go and do that with your lawyer. I'd probably use a different realtor.
Yes. 100%. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
The other side of this things too is especially we can use COVID as an example when people were putting in over asking prices of $100,000, 200, just crazy over asking. It's really, really important that even if everything does go through, that you understand what your budget is,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of times we get really excited about properties. We get emotionally attached to them. We put in a subject free or a firm offer. It gets accepted, but you've overstressed, you've over extended yourself. And sure, on paper you can do it, but say, for example, if you're in a variable rate and our variable rate does a crazy thing like it did post-COVID and it raises 8 times in a matter of 11 months, are you going to be able to maintain that property,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Other thing too, again, if you go in subject free, how quickly do you have to have your deposit ready?
It's 24 hours after that offer's been accepted.
So again, a lot of us won't have the deposit ready. Maybe it's in your investments. Maybe it's something that you have to liquidate. But again, remember that if you're going in subject free and it's getting accepted, you have to have your deposit ready to go.
And I said 24, at least 24 hours after. That's the longest. You may more than likely have to have your deposit ready that moment. So again,
Exactly.
have it in your hand.
So again, preparation always beats aggression, right? A strong power team matters. We always talk about this. Your power team consists of your realtor. Your power consists of your mortgage broker, a lawyer, a home inspector, an insurance guy, an accountant, right? I threw the insurance guy in there because again, if you have to go in subject free, you need to have a guy that you can lean on right away and say, hey, Mr. Insurance Guy, are we going to have an issue financing this property? And they will know because based on the location and based on their experience and based on their providers, they're going to be able to tell you very, very quickly if it's going to be an issue or not.
Yeah.
When you're confident and when you do all these things, again, it makes it a little bit easier for you to go in firm or what they call subject free. But again, you just have to understand what you need to do in order to do that. What things are your biggest risks? What do you have to prep for? And what type of due diligence that you need to do? And again, do you really even need to do it? Like, what is the strategy behind it, right? And again, if you're comfortable and you can check mark all those boxes, still, for me, it's not advisable to do. You can now go in firm.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I agree with you. Guys, especially in this market right now, take advantage of being able to have subjects and again, making sure that the property that you love is going to be the property that you love because the worst thing you can do is love it when you see it. Spend $1.5 million, average price of a single family in Fraser Valley. Spend $1.5 million, and then get it on possession day, and the next day hate your home because you found so many issues with it. That's nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's it for me. That's all I got today.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think this has been good, man. We learned what to do on all the ways that we can still go in firm or subject free, but still protect ourselves and be confident in our decision to go subject free. We learned what algorithmic pricing is and how to say algorithmic pricing, right?
And I really did actually even like this realtor strategy. The builder was asking for 999 plus GST. The offer came in at 915, or what her buyer was willing to do was 915. Again, she went in strong, subject free, right?
Yeah.
And with the understanding that, hey, there's a 7-day rescission period in here where there is an exit clause that's gonna have no cost to her buyer. But it came back that they accepted that 915 offer, which was about $75,000 off of the asking price. But again, when you're a developer, that discount came in a decorating allowance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, for those who don't know, you never want to sell a property for 915. You do want to sell it for 999 and have that decorating allowance for $75,000 off, because when it shows as being sold, Alistair, what is it being sold for?
915.
No, on the MLS it shows it's being sold at full
Oh
asking
no,
price.
them for yes at
Yes, for
999
them.
because they
Yeah.
because they don't show the decorating on. Sorry. Yes.
Right, exactly. And then again, the client is getting what they want
Yep.
in forms of the discount is in the decorating allowance. The developer is getting what they want because now they can still show on the MLS that they
MLS.
sold it for full asking, so it doesn't deter anything else for their future pricing.
Right. It doesn't sink their other units.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was actually a very smart
No,
strategy.
and it is good. And that's one thing that people should understand, right? Like there are rescission periods in both new builds. Just before we wrap this up, there's rescission periods both in pre-sales, which like Geoff told us about earlier, it is 7 days, right? And then
no
and that
penalty.
is sorry?
7 days with no penalty on
Yeah,
new
with
build.
zero pen. That's what I say, with zero penalty, right? When it comes to resale, just regular for sale homes like we normally do, right? Then it's 5 business days is the rescission period, and it's 0.25% of the accepted offer price is what your rescission is, what your penalty fee is if you decide to rescind during that period, during that 5-day period. So again, that's very important to know the difference between the two. Again, it's an interesting thing, the rescission period. A lot of debate amongst in the industry, because how many times has it really ever been paid out? Because because you have subjects, right? So if your subjects come out afterwards, then you just no rescission fee. So it's an interesting thing, interesting debate. We can discuss that another pod.
Yeah, that will be another did you know?
Exactly. All right, people. Well, thank you so much for listening to us today. It is going to be a sunny rest of the week. Make sure you guys get out there. Have a great weekend. Thank you guys again and again and again and again for listening to us. It's been 94 episodes of this. We've been having so much fun doing this for you, and we thank you guys so much for coming along on the ride. We got 6 more episodes before we hit the century mark. We got to have a special pod for that. We're going to have to put a lot of effort into that one. Not that we don't put a lot of effort into these ones. We're just saying that the Hyundai mark, we're going to have a special pod put together for these listeners out there. But again, thank you all for listening. Have an amazing weekend. Get out there and enjoy it. Go buy a home, get a mortgage, call Geoff, go do something. But in the meantime, most importantly, stay empowered, stay informed, and Geoff,
Stay tuned.
that's right, baby. Stay tuned. Peace out.